Hey, what up, body bags? I want to do a review real quick on a trilogy of films. I think that's the only way to get it now is in this little box set type thing. So I'll just do a quick review of all three of them and my basic thoughts on this as a whole. But I've been watching a lot of like serial killer stuff recently, whether it be documentaries or adaptations of big screen things or whatever based on serial killers. A lot of made for TV movies. But I gave this a watch, and that's the Paradise Lost trilogy. It's a series of documentaries HBO put out, and the first one, I think, is a two-time Emmy Award winner and a four-time nominee. It says it won Peabody Award, a ton of awards, but it's the first documentary I ever saw on HBO, and it's basically about these three teens who are wrongfully convicted of murder. I guess in I think it was 93 or 94, these three kids were, like tied up and killed and left in this forest or whatever, and, mutilated, genitals cut off and stuff. Pretty brutal murder or whatever. And they show actual crime scene and videos, and you see everything in really gory, not really gory, but intense detail. It's a pretty savage crime video or whatever, but and then these three kids, because they all wear black and they like wear Metallica shirts and listen to metal and read books by Anton LaVey and stuff in this really small town, quickly they end up being the main suspects. But it's pretty apparent when you start seeing the evidence and people's testimony how little these people know that these kids didn't do it. Like, you had to be skilled, and they even bring surgeons. Like, you have to be really skilled, and even a professional surgeon, it would be hard for them to do these incisions and stuff that they did with these bodies and all that. And it's apparent that the police kind of pressured this kid right here into making a fake testimony because he was borderline retarded. Like, his IQ was really low, and they questioned him for 12 hours, but they only had like a half hour of it on a recording of him confessing. And it was just a whole mess, and it's a really anger-inducing documentary. And it's sad because the main kid, the middle one here, is sentenced to death, and the two other ones have life in prison. And the second one, there's another documentary that's equally as good, in my opinion, where it kind of shifts the suspect to another person of the family, and you're kind of wondering, well, is he the one? Because you know for sure that these three kids didn't do it. And that's the impact of it, is that they're spending life in prison for something they didn't do. And then, you're hearing stuff like they were getting raped in prison. It's brutal to think about. It's a really depressing documentary. It has enough horror in it, though, to where I wanted to review it on this channel. And the fact that, most horror fans are outsiders, wear horror shirts, tattoos, whatever. Not all of them, but a big majority of them. And they're considered different and looked at different. And this documentary, shows that you can get arrested and put on trial for murder for something as simple as wearing a Metallica shirt in a small town. And it's an intense documentary. And also, I want to give props to Metallica because they heard about this story and they let them use their music for free. So the soundtrack to all three of these documentaries is Metallica's music, and it's really badass that they let them do that. And this is actually, all three of them are directed by Joe Berlinger, who directed Metallica's Some Kind of Monster documentary, and he also directed the Blair Witch Project 2, Book of Shadows. And if you watch Blair Witch 2 after watching this, you see a lot of similarities. Like, he got a lot of the story of Blair Witch 2 from this documentary. And the third one was made 11 years after the second one, so it's almost like that movie Boyhood by Richard Linklater, where you're watching everybody age in real time. So by the time you see the third one, you're seeing these three kids 20 years later, the prosecutors 20 years later. Everyone's older, and it's an intense journey. All three of them together is 6 hours and 41 minutes, and it's an intense series. I definitely recommend it, and I urge you, if you're interested in this true crime or serial killer stuff, and I will say this is the best documentary on true crime I've ever seen. Like, it's hands down. I don't think there'll ever be a true crime documentary that'll ever beat this. And just the emotions you feel and the impact this has. But yeah, I urge you, if you're interested in this, pick it up now. I think it's out of print. I bought this at Best Buy when it first came out because my buddy Dustin recommended this to me, and it was like $30 back then. But I think I gave it I looked it up, and I think on eBay it's like 40, 45. On Amazon you may be able to find one for 40. I say if you're interested in this series, definitely pick it up now because I think it's only going to raise in price. Like the Twilight Zone set with Forrest Whitaker, that jumped in price. I think it's like $100 now. You can't find it for any cheaper. This is going to go that route. It definitely has a lot of content, loaded with special features. It's hours and hours and hours of a case here. And like I said, the music's top notch, done by Metallica. It's produced by HBO. All 3 documentaries are amazing. They keep your interest throughout the whole entire runtime. Like, it flies by, and it's like a time capsule to the early 90s. Everyone's got mullets and high top Nikes, and you hear Metallica's music. It's a time capsule to that time, and you see a lot of news footage of the case, and you just feel bad for him. So yeah, I've rambled on enough about it. It's a 4-disc set. If you're going to watch any of it, you have to watch the whole thing to kind of see how it plays out, because there is a good ending towards the end. And when you find out who the main suspect is to this day, it threw me off guard. I didn't expect it. So yeah, it pretty much confirms who the killer is. But yeah. Anyways, guys, that's Paradise Lost. See y'all next week. Peace.